Some homes look great, but are actually terrible long-term buys. I've been selling homes for over 20 years now, so in this video, I'm gonna go over 10 types of homes that I've found hold their value, rent well, or give you and your family long-term flexibility. If you stick with me to the end, you are gonna make smarter decisions, whether you're a first-time buyer, seasoned home buyer, or a future investor. So let's get stuck right into it. Now look, it's easy to get tunnel vision and focused on the brand new home or the remodeled home that's all up to today's visual standards and to feel like that's gonna be the best buy for your family because hey, we all want a beautiful home. But what I have found is that the first type of property that my buyers have overlooked over the last 20 years that would really help them save money and be a good investment in the long term is the well-maintained home. Now, hear me out. This home may not be the most aesthetically pleasing at this time. It may have the kitchen from the 70s or 80s. It may have the bathroom from the 70s or 80s. It may have the shag carpet or the wallpaper. Think your parents' home or your grandparents' home. So it's easy to walk in and walk right out of these. In fact, so many of my clients will just dismiss these right on the internet because of the pictures. However, a lot of these homes have been owned by very conscientious people who have taken care of every little thing that comes up when it comes up. So you may find that a lot of these homes that are a little ugly on the inside, they have a brand new roof and they've never had a roof leak because they kept up on keeping a good roof on the house. They've replaced all those old single pane windows with dual pane windows. They'll have a new HVAC system, a new hot water heater. If they were a 50s house with galvanized plumbing, they've replaced all the plumbing. If they had a terrible Zinsco panel or knob and tube wiring, they've rewired the house. Now they may never have seen the value in making it prettier inside, but they have made it structurally sound, safe, and well maintained. This describes my father's house, which I'll be selling shortly for him in South San Jose. The kitchen is dog ugly. It is original to 1979 when he purchased the home. But the home has all new dual pane windows. It has a relatively new 50-year roof on it, a new composite deck on it, a new liner in the swimming pool, new pool equipment. He kept up on the important things. He just never felt like spending money to make his kitchen prettier. And I can tell you, over those nearly 50 years he's lived in that house, he has never suffered any economic harm from his ugly kitchen. But I have seen many clients suffer economic harm from a hot water heater that burst and flooded their basement and destroyed the flooring, or from a roof that started leaking midwinter and you couldn't tear it off because you would make the problem worse, so you had a leak all winter long. I have seen plenty of clients have to spend a lot of money at a moment they didn't want to when their HVAC system went out in the middle of the summer when it's 105 degrees outside. So taking a minute and saying, you know what, I can make this house prettier over time, but I'm gonna pay real close attention to the structure and the bones and the systems of the house. And I might choose the uglier house that's better maintained. That saves you time, money, and heartache and is a better investment for your family in the long run. If you're getting anything out of this video, hit the like button, click subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss another video with crucial information to help you with your home buying and selling decisions. Now, back to our list of the 10 types of homes you should consider buying that will provide long-term flexibility and better investment for you and your family. The second type of home that I think you should really strongly consider that a lot of my clients overlook is a single-story home. Now, look, if you want to maximize the square footage of a house on a smaller lot, you build a multi-story home, 2 stories or better. And today, all of the new construction, almost all of it, is multi-story homes because those builders want to maximize their profit out of each square foot of land that they own. And the way to do that is to build multi-story homes. But here's the problem with a multi-story home. They don't live as nice, right? The upstairs tends to be hot, the downstairs tends to be cold, and it's hard to regulate both without dual zone HVAC systems. They sell for less overall because there's a smaller buyer pool for them, and they don't age well with people. So the aging population wants a single story home so they don't have to deal with stairs. The disabled population wants a single story home so they don't have to deal with stairs. It's much harder and more expensive to make accommodations for somebody who has some physical limitations in a multi-story home than it is in a single story home. Or perhaps you have bought a multi-story home and then you have had an accident or something that has changed your ability to manage stairs. Now that could just be age and bad old knees, or that could be an injury, but either way, you have the widest buyer pool for a single story home. Also, the longer you hold a home, the more money you make on it. In real estate, there's only two things that really help your investment. You make all the money you're ever going to make at the moment you buy it, because you can't change that initial purchase price. And then from there, it's only time and improvements that help you increase the value of your investment. So if you buy a single story home in an area you plan to live for a long time, if not forever, you can keep that home all the way through and it becomes a better investment. And you don't lose all the money involved in selling that home and having to buy another home when you can no longer handle the stairs. So for this reason, purchasing a single story home right up front, think ranch houses, all over California, my primary market, we have a lot of great single story ranch floor plans. Think that kind of home. If you purchase that up front, you're going to be able to hold that home for longer, make more money on it, and it'll be more flexible for you and your family. And when you go to sell, it'll be more appealing and have a broader buyer pool. So all the way across the board, when it comes to my clients, I encourage them to consider single story homes first. Look, right about now, you're wondering who I am and why you should be listening to me about real estate or anything at all, really, and that's a pretty fair question. My name's Rich Curtis with eXp Realty, and I've been selling homes for over 20 years now, in markets ranging from the Great Recession to the COVID market insanity and everything in between. So when it comes to real estate, I've got you covered. My goal with this channel is to help you make the highest quality real estate decisions you can from the comfort of your couch. So to that end, let's jump right back into my list of 10 types of homes you should be considering for your long-term wealth and flexibility. All right, the third type of home I think you should consider, and I encourage all of my clients to consider, is a home in a strong rental area. Now, why would I say this? You're buying a home to live in. Who cares about the rentals? Well, plans change, life changes. But even more than that, I believe wholeheartedly in real estate investment as a great wealth building tool for you. In fact, real estate has built the middle class and is responsible for more wealth generation amongst the middle class than any other asset type. So when people call me and say, Rich, I want to sell my first home that you sold me, and I want to buy up and buy a bigger house, buy my second home, more often than not, I talk myself out of a commission and try to convince them to keep that house as a rental and buy their new house and keep both. Now, there's some financial challenge to that, and I walk them through the process, but if they can pull it off, then they own two homes. Now they are a landlord and have all the benefits of two pieces of real estate building wealth for them over time. And that's going to make a huge difference for them down the road when they retire. But you have to make sure you're buying the type of home that would be a good rental home. For instance, my first home was a 1958 mid-century modern flat top with a tar and gravel roof and 2-wire aluminum wiring, and it just requires a lot of elbow grease and a lot of maintenance, and it's just not a great rental. So you want to consider what type of home you buy, but you also want to make sure it's in a good rental area. Now I'll talk about where I live. I sell homes in El Dorado County, Sacramento County, Amador, Placer, and Nevada counties. Sacramento County has a lot of great rental neighborhoods in it. Elmhurst, Tahoe Park, East Sac, they're all right around the UC Davis Med Center. So you have students who will rent those homes. You have travel nurses who will rent those homes. You have just doctors and nurses who will rent those homes, who are great tenants. They're never home because they work crazy hours. So if I am looking to buy my first house, I want to at least consider, is this going to be in a neighborhood where I have great long-term rental potential, such that when I decide it's time to buy up, maybe I can rent this one out and have two homes instead of one, building wealth for me. So I think you owe it to yourself to at least consider homes in a good rental area when you're making your next purchase. All right, the fourth type of home I think you should at least consider is new construction homes. Now, if you've been watching the channel for a while, it's no secret that I actually don't like new construction homes. And I think most often you lose financially when you buy new construction homes. And I have a whole video on the channel. You can check that out about new construction versus residential resale. And in my opinion, you win almost 100% of the time by buying a residential resale home for a lot of reasons that are too much for this video. So watch that other video. I'll try to link it in the description down below or at the end of this one. But this isn't just about making money. This isn't just about investment. This home is going to be the hub of your life. This home is also going to be something that either eats up a lot of your time, energy, and resources, or doesn't. So who do I think should consider new construction homes? I think that people who have really stressful or busy work situations should consider new construction homes. If you travel a lot for work, if you work ridiculous hours, if you're a young family who has really young children that require a lot of effort, let's face it, I've got kids. They require a lot of time and effort, especially when they're really little. Now, if you have a busy work schedule or a lot of work travel combined with young children, you simply don't have the time to work on a home, to fix up a home, to deal with the maintenance issues that come with a residential resale or an older home. So for you, giving up some of the financial upside of a residential resale home in order for the lifestyle upside of buying new construction might make sense. And I think a lot of people talk themselves out of new construction for really good reasons. Like I said, I have a whole video of why you should talk yourself out of it. But for these few people that it would make a huge difference in their life to just buy a home, put the furniture down, and not have to worry about anything, they shouldn't run screaming from new construction. They should really consider this one, because losing a little bit of upside for gaining a lot of sleep and time back to spend with your kids is a worthwhile switch for a lot of people. Now, there are some ways you can limit the downsides of buying new construction. You can buy new construction in kind of an up and coming area. You can buy new construction in the early phases such that you get some of the appreciation as the neighborhood builds out as well. And you can buy new construction in prime real estate areas. So there are ways to be careful about your new construction purchase that will help you minimize the downsides if new construction is the type of home that is right for your family. All right, the fifth type of home that I think you should at least consider are homes that have been on the market for a long time. Homes that have that big number next to the DOM, days on market, or CDOM, cumulative days on market, when you look at them online. Now, the first question I always get about a home that's been on the market a long time is, Rich, what's wrong with this place? Why is it sitting and not selling when all the other homes are selling? Now, occasionally there is a good reason. Maybe there's some major repairs that need to happen, or some major deficits with the property, or maybe there's a sewage treatment plant out back, or a psycho neighbor next door, or something like that that really is holding it back. Sometimes, Megan's Law, having someone on the sex offender database in the neighborhood will hold a good house back, where it won't hold other houses in a neighborhood that doesn't have someone like that present. These are all things that do hold homes back and should play a big role in your decision whether or not to buy that home or not. But to be really honest with you, I've been selling homes over 20 years now, and the vast majority of homes on the market a long time, the problem is either the seller or the realtor or both. It's rarely the actual house or neighborhood issue like I'm talking about. So you do need to ask your trusted professional, your realtor, to do the due diligence and help you do the due diligence, do some on your own to make sure none of these other factors are present for this house. But if they aren't, and it's just someone who started at way too high a price and very slowly decreased the price over time, a realtor who's unrealistic, a realtor who's bad at their job and put up crappy pictures and does terrible marketing and isn't doing video marketing and just isn't presenting that house in the best light, then these houses represent some of the best value and best deals on the market. You should absolutely look at them. In fact, I think it's a really viable strategy to pick a list of the homes with the largest days on market in the neighborhood that you want to live in, rule out the ones that have some of these actual issues, and then go after the other ones, because this is where the deals can be had. By the time someone's had a lot of days on market, maybe they've lost a bunch of offers, maybe they haven't had any showings in a long time, and they have a real reason that they have to sell, that's a person that's going to be much more open to negotiating on price and terms with you, and you can get yourself a pretty darn good deal on these homes. In fact, often, sometimes the best deals. So don't overlook a house because you're worried about what's wrong with it because it's been on the market for a long time. Lead with curiosity. Find out why it's been on the market a long time, and if it doesn't have a major deficit, go after this home and get yourself a deal. Look, if at the end of this video you still aren't sure what type of home you should go for and you want some personalized advice that's specific to your situation, because there's no blanket real estate advice that's good real estate advice. All of this has to be hyper-local and specific to you and your family's needs and financial position. Feel free to reach out to me via the contact information on your screen or in the description down below. If you're in my markets in Northern California, El Dorado County, Placer County, Sacramento County, and Nevada County, I'd be happy to help you out myself. If you're outside of my range, I have a whole network of trusted professionals I can refer you to so you can get some great local advice for you. All right, the sixth type of home I think you owe it to yourself to consider is a multifamily home. And I bet most of you watching this are not even considering multifamily. And when I say multifamily, most of you are probably thinking duplex, triplex, maybe a fourplex small apartment building. And those are great. They allow you to live in one unit, rent the others, offset your mortgage, make some money. You do have flexibility. If adult family need to come live with you, they can take another unit. And you do have the ability to put adult children in some of those units down the road. So they do accomplish a lot of what I'm talking about in this section, but that's not actually what I'm talking about. A lot of those tend to be shared wall situations and multi-story situations, which does limit your flexibility. So for the purposes of this video, what I'm talking about are 2 home on lot properties with what we call an ADU, an additional dwelling unit. ADU is just real estate jargon for a granny flat or a little house out back. The reason these properties are so valuable is because of the ultimate flexibility they provide for you. There are some challenges in some municipalities, and we'll talk about that at the end of this section, but let's talk about the benefits first. Buying the property that has the big house out front and the little house out back, you can usually get both of these being single-story homes, so that takes advantage of another property type we talked about being beneficial. And that little house out back, when you first buy the property, say you have young kids and reasonably healthy parents, well, you can rent out the little house out back and have some income to offset the mortgage, or to just get a little extra money on the side for paying for those kids, because kids are darned expensive. And so it's great for that. Now, a few years down the road, your parents start aging. They can't handle their own home, but you don't want to put them in a nursing home. Well, that little house out back allows you to move your parents onto your own property, keep track of them, keep an eye on them, but keep them having their own autonomy, their own little house. And that is invaluable. It also allows them to potentially pay and offset your mortgage and help out with the family as well. For those of us who are Gen Xers, who have a bunch of gray in our beards and our hair at this point, we're what they call the sandwich generation, where we're going to have young kids getting ready to go off to college at the same time we have aging parents. So having those aging parents close to us move onto the property and help offset the mortgage costs and their own care costs while we pay for our kids to go to college is invaluable. And this type of property gives you that flexibility. Now, later on down the road, unfortunately, all of us are going to meet our maker at some point. Mom or dad passes away, and you have adult children who need a place to live while they get through college, or who need a place to live while they start their career, or they have their first child and they lose a job and they need to move home. Well, instead of moving into your home and having 2 adult families try to coexist in the same space with all of the emotional problems that come with that, you have this house there that they can move into and again, maintain their autonomy. Now, fast forward again, your kids are all out, they're on their own 2 feet, you're an empty nester, and you don't need the big house anymore, but you still love the property, you still love the land, you still love where you live, your whole community's there. You can move into the little house yourself and rent out the main house. And that way you get a bunch of money coming in from the larger rental amount that the main house will garner. You have this beautiful little house that you have this whole history in, that your parents have lived in, that your children have lived in, that you are now living in, and you get to maintain this property, and you still have that home that your children can come back to, that land, that family legacy. You've done that all in one property, and you can keep that same property for your entire life. That is the big benefit of 2 house on 1 lot properties. There's 2 ways to get these properties. First one is to buy one that already has it on it. Depending on your market, there may be more or less of these, depending on the laws out there. The other way is to buy a home on a bigger lot or on acreage and add a dwelling unit down the road. Now, there's cost to this, so you have to budget for that. But here in California, they've passed some really pro ADU laws that make it so pretty much anywhere you can have the space, the physical space to build an ADU, you can legally do it. So it's really kind of a great situation for people who maybe you don't quite have the money for that 2 house on lot property now. You buy 1 house on a bigger lot, and down the road you build that ADU when or just before you need it. But either way you slice it, I think you owe it to yourself to really consider the long-term value and flexibility of having a property with more than 1 home on it. All right, we're getting deep into the list now. The property type number 7, I think you owe it to yourself to consider, are homes in up and coming areas. Now look, you don't need me to tell you the value of buying a home in an area that's up and coming, right? That you know that the neighborhood's gonna get better and that more people are gonna come in and your property value is gonna increase. This one's a no-brainer. So I'd rather here give you some cautionary tales, some things to think about. So here's what I'm looking for when I look for a home in an up and coming area. A place where they're gonna build a new college or university, a place where a large sports stadium is moving in, a place where there is other development. They're building out a lot of homes in that area, a place where they're building out a lot of parks and community infrastructure in that area. These are pretty no-brainers. You guys all know this. But what's the cautionary tale to this? you have to really do your research on this, and you have to be earlier in the process rather than later. So you have to catch this before everybody else is catching on to this. So this involves a little bit of research, finding out, hey, are there a lot of permits that have been pulled in the area? Are some big companies moving into the area and starting construction on buildings for their businesses, right? Is there a big employer moving into the area? Finding that stuff out early and moving in and buying your real estate while they're in the early phases of this so you can ride all that appreciation up is the way that buying in an up and coming area works out for your family. The way it doesn't work out for your family is everybody's talking about how great this area is. Everybody's moving into this up and coming area. Oh, I should jump on that bandwagon too. By then it's too late, and now you're just buying real estate at inflated hype prices, and you'll either break even or lose most times when you do that. So you have to catch this early and be an early adopter and an early mover into that neighborhood. And sometimes that means accepting some subpar living conditions, because living in an area where there's a lot of construction going on isn't that fun. You may have a couple of years where it's not your favorite place to live, but it will really work out for you in the end. All right, property type number 8 you should at least consider is properties in prime locations. Now this seems like a no-brainer. Of course you want to buy properties in prime locations. And we've been talking a lot about property types that will help you build wealth or have flexibility over time. And in this case, properties in prime locations maybe won't necessarily be the biggest wealth builders for you, or maybe not even the most flexible property types, because you're less likely to get the type of property like a multi-unit property in a prime location, or less likely to be able to afford it. When you're buying properties in prime locations, you're paying prime or premium prices for them. So if you're on a tight budget, this one isn't for you. So why do I say you should consider properties in prime locations? Because of course, the old adage, and it is an annoying cliche, but it is 100% true, is location, location, location. You can make a bad house in a good location better. You can't make a bad location better. So you're always better off buying in a prime location. Now this doesn't, again, usually build as much wealth, although it could, because these properties do tend to appreciate really well because they're in a good location, but you did pay a premium when you moved in. And remember, in my opinion, you make all the money you're ever going to make on real estate the day you buy it, because you can't change your acquisition price. But these properties maintain and increase their value over time. You don't have worries of picking a wrong neighborhood. The last segment, picking up and coming neighborhood. I can't tell you the number of up and coming neighborhoods in the Sacramento area that never up and came. That just didn't happen. People dumped a ton of money into them. They revitalized them 4 times, and the neighborhood just never took for whatever reason. The money never came in, and people really lost their shirts on real estate investments in those communities. So you have to really be careful with how you pick them when you're going for the up and coming strategy, but you never really have to worry when you're going for the prime location strategy. So if you're the kind of person that's kind of a set it and forget it type of investor or home buyer, you want to just buy something in a good neighborhood. No, it's always going to be a good neighborhood. These are places in Sacramento, the River Parks, the Fab 40s, the Curtis Park, the Land Park, the East Sacramento, the kind of neighborhoods that just always do well and pretty much are always going to do well, then this is the strategy for you. You don't really have to stress about your investment. Yep, you paid more when you moved in, you'll get more when you move out, and you know you're in a secure place for your real estate investment. So if you're that kind of buyer, then you owe it to yourself to consider just buying a property in a prime location and not worrying about it. All right, the 9th type of property that I think you owe it to yourself to consider are homes on larger lots. Now, for some of you, this is a no-brainer. You're like, yeah, of course, I want a home on a large lot with a big backyard. I want as much land as I can get. And for others of you, you're like, I hate gardening. I hate mowing the lawn. I hate maintaining property. I want an 8-foot strip backyard that's 100% paved, and I don't want to deal with it. This section is for you guys to convince you why you are wrong about that, and you should really strongly consider the properties on larger lots. So here we go. The prime reason for buying a property on a larger lot is future flexibility and future appreciation, and a larger buyer pool when you go to sell. So even if the property only has 1 home on lot, like I talked about a few sections ago, if you're still hanging with me in the video, homes with 2 houses on lot provide a lot of flexibility and sell for more. So if you have a larger lot, someone can buy your home with the idea that either immediately or in the future, they can build an ADU, an additional dwelling unit, or a granny flat on the property. You may also just get a family with a bunch of kids that want a huge backyard. It opens up your buyer pool. You may get somebody that wants to do a little bit of small scale home agriculture. So a larger lot makes more sense for them and broadens the buyer pool. And of course, real estate fundamentals. Most of the value in real estate is in the land, not the improvements, right? We can build more houses, we can't build more earth. We are currently flying through space on the only inhabitable planet we've found so far. Most of it's water, so the land is a bit limited. So if you can buy more of it, own and control more of it, you're gonna do better over time. So even if you're the, I don't wanna maintain it, I don't wanna deal with it family, I encourage you to at least consider buying a home on a larger lot because your needs may change in the future and it gives you a lot of flexibility and it opens up your buyer pool. It'll earn you more money down the road. All right, we are on to the last property type on our list. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for hanging with me. Property type number 10 that I think you owe it to yourself to consider are older and historic homes. Now, why? Right off the bat, you're probably thinking older historic homes, they are fussy, they are harder to work on, nothing standard, they're gonna be a maintenance nightmare, and you're not totally wrong about that. But here's some reasons to consider them. One, a lot of these fall into the first category of home we talked about, which are really well-maintained homes, right? And secondly, they have unique architecture. Now, this depends on who you are, but if you're me, I hate modern homes. I hate modern subdivisions. Driving through a brand new planned unit subdivision where there are 3 different styles, they call them elevations. That's real estate jargon for what the front of the house looks like. 3 different styles, 3 different elevations as you drive through the streets. You're just 1, 2, 3, same house. It looks horrible to me. There's no personality. There's no uniqueness. I don't really ever want to live in a place like that. However, I do want to have a home that looks like those homes on the inside, but I want something unique and architecturally different on the outside. Did I mention I bought a mid-century modern kind of Eichler light style house for my first home? So look, these types of historic or older unique homes provide this opportunity to keep that architectural character on the outside and completely remodel the inside into a beautiful modern home. And when you do that, you often do really, really well when you go and sell that home. The other reason to consider these types of homes is they are often in another one of the categories we just talked about, which is prime neighborhoods. Usually these beautiful historic homes tend to be found in the prime neighborhoods in whatever area you live. And so by buying one of these and renovating the inside, you now have done everything you can to maximize your investment. You bought an older, uglier home that needs some work in a prime neighborhood that's going to go up in value, and you put in the elbow grease and money to remodel it so that it is now a very attractive home to buyers, and boom, you win on all 3 counts when you go to sell. So even though you might think, these are old, they're fussy to work on, I don't want to deal with it, you owe it to yourself to at least consider this type of home because it can be a great long-term wealth builder for you and your family. All right, that wraps up our discussion of the 10 property types you owe it to yourself to at least consider when you're out shopping for a home. And if you are out shopping for a home right now and you're in any of my markets in Northern California, Sacramento County, El Dorado County, Amador County, Placer, or Nevada counties, then I'd love the opportunity to work with you. Feel free to reach out to me via the link in the description and schedule a private phone call with me. Now, if you're not in my market, let me know that as well, and I'm happy to refer you to a trusted professional where you are. And if you're just in the information gathering stage and you want a little more info, you can click this video right here, which talks about new construction versus residential resale and which one wins. If you'd like to compare towns and you're trying to figure out where to land in Northern California, you can click this playlist down here for my town versus town videos. Either way, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for making it to the end with me, and I'll see you on the next one.